Gus Grant here, back at it again, ladies and gents, the show where we talk about anything under, above, and around the sun. Let's get straight into it. Today we're going to be talking about a book I read recently, and that is none other than Fear and Loathing in Las Vegas, baby, by Hunter S. Thompson. And I must say, what's there to load about this book? Seriously, come on, man. For those of you who've read it, you know what I'm talking about. This is such an entertaining piece, especially when you understand what went into the conception and writing of this book. The story basically follows two protagonists. You have Raoul Duke and Dr. Gonzo, on what is described by Thompson himself as a savage journey to the heart of the American dream. This is just a fancy way of saying that these two guys just went and got smashed in Las Vegas. Cause why wouldn't they, right? Now, these characters, Raoul Duke and Gonzo, they're really just fictionalized representations of Thompson himself and his then friend and traveling companion, Oscar Zeta Acosta Fierro, who was an attorney by professional and also a novelist himself. What these guys also were, they were real-life pioneers and adventurers, man. I mean real pirates, like Jack Sparrow type stuff. When you start reading and seeing all the shit they got up to, you'll actually see how wild these guys were. I mean, they knew how to have fun and party. Sure, they were loaded pretty much most of the time, but I mean, hey, Sin City, baby. Don't expect them to be Boy Scouts. Be fair, please. Now, what's even more funny is why they go into Vegas in the first place. Now, you might assume that was just the agenda, that they were going to go there, couple of drinks, some drugs, get shit-faced, maybe a couple of broads. But that's actually not the mission here, guys. You're missing the point. Raoul Duke is a journalist by profession, and he is tasked by an identified magazine company to cover the Mint 400, which is supposedly this one crazy-ass off-road race in the middle of the desert. Of course, like all good Christians, these guys weren't going to Vegas just on business. No fucking way, man. They also wanted to mix in a bit of pleasure as well. Now it turns out that they settled for not a lot of business, but a whole lot of pleasure. And I mean a hell of a lot. Really high dopamine stuff, ladies and gents. Now, first off, they decide to rent a convertible for the occasion, cause, I mean, why not, you know? What's more interesting is that they decided it's a really great idea to fill this rental up with pretty much every kind of illicit drug known to man at the time. So Thompson goes into pretty much great detail to mention all these uppers, downers, psychedelics they had. I mean seriously, you name it, they had it in their trunk and also in their bloodstream. I mean, these guys were fucking high, man. Empire States, Eiffel Tower. Come on, don't make me laugh, guys. These guys were up in orbit before SpaceX, dudes. They're the real life astronauts, baby. Now, when they finally arrive in Vegas, they're, already shit-faced by this point. They already had their fair share of acid trips, crazy encounters, like the ones you have in GTA. For those of you who play GTA, those random encounters, those crazy fucks, yeah. Now, one of these crazy encounters was actually an innocent hitchhiker they picked up along the way. During the trip, they came across this hitchhiker, and they eventually picked up this guy, and man, did that cause some tension. Now, why do I say this? Basically, as we've mentioned, these guys, they're shit-faced most of the time. They just pick up a guy who just wants a lift, man, So the narrative in that chapter, it's really brilliant, because you have our heroes, Gonzo and Duke, who, as I said, they're high as fuck, they become paranoid. The hitchhiker thought these crazy motherfuckers were going to kill him. And it was such a riot, man. I mean, and that ain't even the half of it. We didn't mention the bats they were seeing flying around the car. I mean, how the fuck can you see bats flying out in the sun, in the middle of a desert, broad daylight, man? These guys were so fucked up on acid that they were actually seeing bats flying around them. I mean, it's ridiculous shit when you think about it. And the book's pretty much filled with all these wacky encounters. And the craziness really amps up once they arrive in Vegas, mind you. So we haven't scratched the surface at this point. Now, I've never been to Vegas myself. I've only seen it in movies and shit. And I know they say it's a lively place, but you guys who've been there, maybe you can tell me in the comment section. Imagine these two guys, fucked up on all kinds of drugs, running around in Vegas. You get all these elaborate descriptions of their antics from this narrator, who's obviously not the most reliable, well, due to his, how would I say, chaotic state of mind. But hey, he sure knows how to spin a yarn, folks. There's also a lot of psychedelic imagery too, and that adds a certain vibrancy to the story, another color palette, if you will, which makes it all the more fun to read. It's quite a different book, like from the usual like stuff you read. Because I mean, really, this novel is like borderline fiction. It's not really fiction, like it's reality, but really exaggerated. So, yeah, I mean, nobody knows what the fuck it is. I bet even Thompson himself didn't know, like, all the stuff that actually happened, like what was true and what wasn't. Now, Thompson also goes into detail to explain what and how the protagonists were feeling both physically and mentally, given their intoxication at the time and being placed in the social situations they managed to find themselves in. So, I'm sure that if you are a fun-loving individual, you can surely relate to some of this stuff that's mentioned here. I seriously hope that you don't relate to all of it, because if that's the case, man, you need to take better care of yourself, you know? That's all I'm saying there. But hey, I'm not here to judge. That's the work of God, okay? We're all gonna get judged one day, you'll see. I mean, while we're here, let's just live our lives, make it entertaining, man. Have something to talk about when we meet the big man, you know? Now, of course, underneath all this action, the book does contain themes and commentary regarding the social and political nature of the USA in the late 60s and early 70s, when the book was written. And this is all as seen through Thompson's eyes, so you hear all his opinions on the political situation at the time, President Nixon, the war in Vietnam, that sort of thing. But, I mean, if you want to know more about that, read the book, man. And even if you don't care about that shit, you should read the book anyway. It's a fun read, a short read as well. And I mean, reading, it's good to read. If, on the other hand, you don't like books, you can always watch the movies. There's a couple of them. I had watched the most recent one came out in the 90s with Johnny Depp in it, who stars as Raoul Duke, Benicio del Toro as Dr. Gonzo. Brilliant actors. Worth mentioning that Johnny Depp was actually a great friend of Hunter S. Thompson, went to his funeral and everything. He actually blew his ashes out of a fucking cannon, man. So, yeah, pretty wild guys, Depp and Thompson. Myself, I prefer the book, but hey, each to their own. I got nothing against those Hollywood folks either, man. Anyway, that was my 2 cents on Fear and Loathing in Las Vegas by the late and great Hunter S. Thompson. For those of you that have read it or watched the movie, please let me know what you think in the comments. And I'll catch you anyway in the next one. This has been your host, Gus Grand, signing out.